Сегодня советский народ проводил в последний путь Константина Устиновича Черненко, выдающегося деятеля коммунистической партии и советского государства, международного коммунистического и рабочего движения. С утра через колонный зал вновь шли рабочие и служащие заводов и фабрик, работники учреждений и научно-исследовательских институтов, деятели науки и культуры, военнослужащие, труженики полей и ферм, учащаяся молодежь. Десять часов утра. Отдать последний долг Константину Устиновичу Черненко. В колонный зал Дома Союзов пришли товарищи Горбачев, Тихонов, Громыко, Гришин, Романов.
Welcome everyone to Crisis in the Kremlin, which is an interesting game that I will be playing for a little while, because it's a game essentially that's a political simulator, and it's meant to represent the last years, as you can see, of the USSR. Your objective is to try to hold hold your premiership, essentially, and prevent people from overthrowing you, either the Russians, either the other republics, either the KGB, or whoever. So yeah, you choose your general secretary to start, and then you go for essentially according to the choices that you make. Let's just show you what kinds of policies you can pick. You're gonna have different objectives, obviously. Like, okay, so oh shit, I did the wrong thing. So as you can see at the beginning, you have 4 pre-made choices. There's Gorbachev, as you can see, Grigory Romanov, who is a conservative. There's Grishin, who's another conservative, but less about the neo-Stalinism, more about the Brezhnev era. And then there's Andrei Gromyko, who is a moderate and just kind of the guy that is centrist in the party. However, you can also make your Comrade leader, as you can see. And the main things are, and as you can see, depending on which policies you choose, you get different people that are supposed to be representing around, a type, an archetype. So there's different foreign policies, as you can see. There's confrontation with the West. Conservative, which is, just kind of like peaceful coexistence. Then there's true peaceful coexistence. And then there's friendship, which is obviously to improve relations. Interior policy is liberalization, full control, conservative, and moderate control. Interior policy meaning like social policy, freedom of speech, that kind of stuff. And then there's economic policy. There's mixed system, market system, planned system. So let's choose what we're going to try. Now, I wouldn't mind coexistence for foreign policy. Now, keep in mind that I'm really bad at this game. So all of these choices are going to be like thematic. Wow, I know a little bit more in-game in terms of mechanics. I did play a little bit. Over here, I don't really know what this is going to change that much. In terms of interior policy, we're going to try moderate control and economic system, planned system. That gives us Brezhnev. Conservative, mixed system, market system, Bukharin. Coexistent, moderate control, market system. Yeah, see, because what I would like to try to do, I need planned economy to do this, is try to implement the computerization program, but hey, that's gonna be weird. Anyway, so here we are. First things first, this is the game screen that we're gonna be spending most of our time on. This is obviously, as you can see, the republics of the USSR, which gives us our stats that are gonna be changed by something that we're gonna do right now. This is the mood of the country. Obviously, right now, at the beginning, everyone loves the Soviet Union or whatever. These are, relevant information, Chinese relations, the budget, the loyalty, science points, population, money, army power, and the date. This is the world, the state of the world. There's you know, the various spheres of influence that we can take a look at. Clicking on a country, we see the stats. So, for example, people that are in the Warsaw Pact, they're by default loyal to us, and so there's a loyalty meter that if it drops down to 0 or, you know, to low, there's going to be events for them to succeed. There's liberalization, and then there's the Soviet republics, which have loyalty to you, as you can see, but there's also, you know, different political stances that they can have. They can be pro-Soviet, they can be reformers, they can be nationalists, and there's also their religion. And then different countries have different things that are, you know, unique to them. Like normal European countries who can finance communism and make them leave NATO if there's enough communism and if the USA is out of NATO. So if you have managed to basically destroy the USA. There's France, with which you can make trade, or you can support socialists or Gaullists. The Gaullists are there to make them leave NATO. The socialists are there to get trade. And then, yeah, that's basically Europe. Then in Africa, you can support revolutions to, you know, overthrow pro-Western government and make them, make these countries become pro-Soviet, as you can see. Some of them already are, like Ethiopia, like Somalia. And you can eventually, if you develop neo-colonialism, you can make resource extraction or something like that. And then there's pro-Western countries where obviously you're gonna have things to do. In India, you can make war for Kashmir to, you know, get them invited in the Comic-Con if India is pro-Soviet. And Kashmir has, you know, Kashmir is Indian, so victory in Kashmir. And then there's China, which starts the game neutral because of the Sino-Soviet split. You have 40 relations, and you can do a bunch of shit with China. You can do some stuff with Japan. You can try to resume the Korean War, and you can invite Mongolia to the USSR if the USA has fallen. You know, this kind of business, and yeah, so that's basically that. Out here is the economy screen, which we're going to take a look at soon. And this one, the telephone, is the political stuff, so like the workings of the Soviet government. So there's the council, which, you know, you can see which factions are around. There's the MVD, Ministerstvo внутренних дел, the Minister of Internal Affairs, Interior Ministry, which governs, you know, a bunch of stuff, as you can see, like elections, you know, your political standing. Then there's the Иностранных дел, the foreign ministry, which has to deal with the Warsaw Pact, you know, all that stuff. Then there's the Академия наук, the Academy of Sciences, which has automation, the space future, agriculture tax, military tax, the atom, and yeah, back to automation. What I would like to try to do is, yeah, as you can see, I need to not have the free market to, you know, develop OGAS, which is the all union automatic thing, which automates automates fully the economy of the USSR. Then there is the finance ministry, which governs again what kind of economy you have, which can be a mixed market economy, state planning, military machine. You know, by default, it's a state-planned economy. And the trade policy, you know, all that stuff. So the first things that we need to do is we need to go into the book over here, because there's the history events at the beginning. So essentially, this is governing, like, the year is 1985, but this is supposed to govern essentially what our USSR has done that's maybe the same or maybe different from the real USSR. So, like, you have the GDR. GDR uprising, June 17th, 1953. Mass uprisings in the GDR, the German Democratic Republic, because of food crisis, industrialization, and a wish of Soviet administration to unite Germany. So what are we going to do? Are we going to use the army to control protests, run the rebels over with tanks, support transfer of power to moderates, or you can just skip the pre-game events, which I believe does the historical choice all the time. Now, the historical choice for this one is run the rebels over with tanks. And if you do this enough, there's going to be more events on the crisis of the Soviet bloc. If we do this enough, then at one point we're not even gonna need to like use the army or anything. It's just gonna change one of these options over to threaten to use force, and they're like, oh shit, they, you know, ran over people with the tanks, better not do anything. What we're going to do is support a transfer of power to the moderates, because that increases relations with the West. You're gonna see why that's useful. The government retired, the new administration declared decentralization of the economy, workers taking part in making production plans, and the end of industrialization. Then you get more stuff. The Hungarian Revolution. You can see there's like a nice Soviet guy saying, "Mi trebujeme mira." We are looking for, we strive for peace. And you know, you see all the like the Western diplomats being like, "Oh shit, the giant Soviet worker looks for peace, but we want war." You know, they have all the atomic weapons and stuff. This is one of the reasons why I kind of like this game. It's like, you know, it's really difficult. I don't understand it. It's not the most fun thing ever, but it's really, really atmospheric. You get the Soviet feel. 1956, Hungarian Revolution. Mass riots against socialist administration after parts of the government sided with the rebels. Oh, and also the English is like pretty bad, which is great. And we're gonna support a transfer of power to moderates. The government resigned. The new leadership announced the decentralization of the economy, the participation of labor collectives in drawing up plans, and liberalizing censorship. So, like, we can see what effects our choices are having in the world. So, like, for example, the GDR is not anymore a people's democracy. It's socialist reformism, and it gives them loyalty 100 and liberalization 65, which can cause troubles. So, you know, this is not exactly like, you know, just a total 100% thing. Hungary, as you can see, again, socialist reformism. As far as we know, and then this is the, you know, mission to space of Yuri Gagarin. As far as we know, Gagarin didn't see any signs of God. There's a famous Soviet poster that I might have time to edit into the video, where there's like a picture of Gagarin in space, and he is like, "Boga нет," there's no God. Like, I don't see any God over here. Isn't this a proof of Marxism's theses? And as you can see, there's like a nice little poster of the Soviet, you know, good schoolboy. As you can see, he gets 5 as marks. And in Russia and the former USSR, marks go from like 1 to 5 in school. So like, this guy is really, really good at music or whatever. And so, yeah, he's the model school child. So we're gonna strengthen atheist propaganda because we're a bunch of skeptics. XD. Atheistic propaganda was strengthened. Percentage of atheists rose significantly. This reduces issues that you may have with religion, but it pisses off intellectuals, I believe. But whatever, we don't care about them. Nie waltają telefona. The Prague Spring. The beginning of mass liberalization from the government of Czechoslovakia. The poster over here isn't that related, but it's like, you know, don't like speak nonsense at the phone. It's like, you know, if you speak what you don't, well, if you say what you're not supposed to at the telephone, the spies are gonna hear what you say. So it's, you know, down there. Voltun, or like, you know, talkative guy. Nahotka dla špiona, you know, is a resource for the spy. So we're gonna do limit reforms using threats, because turn a blind eye, I believe, makes them like a liberal democracy or something. But yeah, we're gonna limit the reforms, which basically Alexander Dubček, who was the guy that became the leader of Czechoslovakia in '68, was trying to reform. So he gets 60 liberalization and 100 loyalty. And they're reformist. Lieberman's reform. So, 1965-1970, Lieberman's reform. Reform planned expanding independence of businesses, unions, and organizations, wide use of material stimulation. Lieberman evaluated the cost of reform as a cost of a paper, which will be used to publish the orders, while OGAS project was forgotten. Now, whatever this is supposed to mean, essentially this was, as far as I understand it, a kind of pro-market reform attempt by some managers, essentially, in the Soviet economy. Because the way the Soviet economy worked wasn't that there was, you know, no initiative or anything like that, but it was very heavily conformant to the centralized plan. But the individual managers of the factories worked essentially in a quote-unquote similar way to Western managers, except that they couldn't set prices for their goods because they were centrally controlled, but whatever. So we can either partially support the reform, which is going to increase sort of liberalization of the economy and change our economy laws. We're going to call them like that. Fully pass Liberman's reforms, which is going to give us, I believe, like some form of market economy as a economic structure, or we can present the idea of automation instead, which is what we're going to do. We abandoned the Kosygin reforms. Kosygin was the Soviet premier in the Brezhnev era. Large funds were spent on automation, but this will not give results soon. So basically, if we take a look at our finance ministry, no, that's foreign ministry, sorry, interior ministry, finance, there we go. So, type of economy, it's remained the state-planned economy. I believe you can get the state-planned with self-management or the Stamokap, SMC. Yeah, Kosygin's plan, like in Hungary. Let the state support private initiative as well as expand the powers of blah 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 blah. Instead, we gained more science points. Alright, then the space race. 1975, now when we spent most of the resources for a weapons race and political struggle all over the world, during which a large amount of money is used to improve economy and social conditions of other socialist countries, we have little resources left for the space race. It doesn't make us any good, and it won't during the next few centuries. A lot of people don't see the point in it anymore, so maybe we should just stop it. We're gonna do this peaceful space race because there's... like, you can do like a moon landing, which gives you some bonuses, and so I would kind of like to do that, you know, in the spirit of like a science-based Soviet Union. 1975-85. The obvious continuation of the large American Soviet space race is the creation of manned, reusable transport space systems. The first in the US is the Space Shuttle, which was put into regular operation since 1981. The second is in the USSR, Energia Buran, according to which unmanned tests were made, thanks to which it became possible to implement projects of manned flights to the Moon and Mars, with delivery of research equipment there. Cool. So that should give us more science points, as you can see if we take a look at the science thing, the Academy of Science. As you can see, the space future. We can do the Lunar Research Station. Americans were the first to land on the moon, but we will make the first lunar station. And you can also have the first step on Mars, but that's a lot of science points. Massive spacecraft building. Then you can also do spy satellites, which is nuclear weapons in space, which is what would have been better to do, or what would be better to do if we had chosen the other one, the, you know, armed space race. 1979 Islamic Revolution, 30 years ago. The 1979 Islamic Revolution in Iran, which resulted in the overthrow of Shah Mohammad Reza Pahlavi and the Shiite government led by Ayatollah Khomeini. The constitutional monarchy was replaced by the Islamic Republic, which began the repression against the communists. So we can sever relations and support communist rebels, support Islamic socialism and create a large left opposition, or negotiate with the Islamists and recognize their government. I believe this is the historical choice. Now, the supporting Islamic socialism is going to create a people's democracy in Iran, which is going to turn them pro-Soviet, but you can't do anything else with them. Or you can sever relations and support communist rebels, which improves relations with Iraq, because Iraq is going to have the Iran-Iraq war, you know, as a consequence of the Islamic Revolution. And if you support the Islamic socialism, Iraq is going to turn pro-Western. So we're going to support Iraq and sever relations and support communist rebels. I believe what can happen after a while is that you can invade Iran, but I'm not 100% about that. And as you can see, the poster over there, unfortunately, it's uptight. It's kind of turned the wrong way, top down, so you can't read it. But it's saying, like, as you can see, there's like a U.S. military guy. Behind him, there's this politician that's shouting peace, defends, and I do not know what разрушение means, but yeah, he's like shouting, peaceful slogans of American policy with a grain of wheat that's hiding a bomb, while it's saying frasi, so phrases, I basi, and bases. So in reality, the U.S. guy is putting bases all over. This is kind of funny. 1979 mass purges continue in Iran as an answer to the growing opposition and guerrilla movement, which kind of did happen in real life. Like, the Iranian government heavily repressed the actually very large communist movement. Like, along with the Islamists, the other political force that heavily supported the revolution and was heavily involved in the overthrow of the Shah was various socialist movements, among which the Communist Party, the Tudeh, was very prominent. In 1984, all opposition groups were destroyed. So while it doesn't give any immediate bonuses, as you can see, they're authoritarianism, they are neutral, they have 55 defense level, and the ruling party is Islamist, but it does give us the military invasion. Oh shit, USA have fallen. Okay, whatever. But that means that you can support, do military aid for the Iran-Iraq war. As you can see, this thing over here, this kind of shield, represents an active conflict. So there's one right now in Afghanistan, obviously. There's one in Israel, with the Israel-Palestine situation. There's one, as you can see, in Iraq as well. And I believe there's like a few scattered about Asia, maybe? No. Maybe some in Africa, but none that I can see. So yeah, as always, the Middle East, just such a great place. So basically we just gained relations with Iraq. Now, Vladimir Vysotsky. Vladimir Vysotsky becomes extremely popular among the Soviet youth. His songs are completely unacceptable because he criticizes and mocks our party. Even party members began listening to them, so we need to do something. So basically, this is a singer that's, against the government. Let's say criticism is helping the party because this improves the liberalization scores and, makes intellectuals and stuff less pissed, which is important because we pissed them in other choices. We didn't ban his song, so others started to take example from him. The only downside is I believe it kind of decreases KGB influence and power, but, who cares? And the poster is supposed to represent happy life in the USSR, saying, "Я другой такой страны не знаю, где так вольно дышит человек." So basically, like, I don't know, I don't know any other country like this one where, where the person, the human being can be so sort of free, And as you can see, there's like a little kid that's really happy. Polish crisis, 1980. Retirements in Poland. After Poland gained a massive debt and entered economical crisis, the government has raised all prices, which led to protests. The leader of Poland has retired, but the new one still can't deal with the situation. So, we're going to support a transfer of power to moderates. The historical one over here is use the army to control the protests, which is Marshal Jaruzelski, famous 1980 crisis. So the government resigned. The new leadership introduced martial law. Oh, actually, no, this one. Condemned and expelled the old leadership and expelled them from the party, and carried out a partial return of national authorities under the leadership of the Polish United Workers' Party, together with the introduction of the ombudsman's position. So that, as you can see, has turned Polish into, People's Democracy? Okay, I thought it would have turned them reformist. Whatever. So there's 74 relations. 1982, Comrade General Secretary, we received a letter from the USA. It looks like some girl decided not to believe lying imperialist media, which claims that we are getting ready for war and wants to know about real policies. There's a really cool, avant-garde poster over here. This is kind of one of my favorite styles, honestly, of posters. As you can see, it's saying here, Krasnaya Moskva, Red Moscow, Serce Proletarskai Mirovai Revolucji, the heart of the world revolution. It's also in English because, it's one of the early ones, I believe. What we're going to do is we're going to invite and recruit her. but I believe it's, yeah, the plane crashes, but we get some propaganda out of it, so that increases relations with people. Oh shit, 76. We did something wrong. Because it was supposed to be 80. Oh shit. Now we can't do this one. If we support socialists, does that increase relations? Oh, maybe in the future. So yeah, we're going to end this recording for now, and yeah, this was the early events. So how you progress in the game is that from now on, you're gonna get, whenever you click this, instead of the history events, you get other events that are, you know, about essentially what's going on in the USSR, and these progress the game forward. So let's just get this first one out of the way, which you always have. And then in the next episode, we're going to progress forward the time and set up our economy and that kind of stuff. So this one is more pluralism. We came to power. Now we understand that there are only few people with certain reformist views. We must change it. The crucial step is coming. Your step, you can maintain a young and possibly progressive neo-communist party of the Soviet Union. You can secretly release Tarasov from a psychiatric hospital. You can also return Yakovlev or Kostolapov. These are all Soviet politicians. Yakovlev opposed the Soviet invasion of Yugoslavia and close friendly ties with the British monarchy. Kostolapov contributed to the reinstatement of Molotov in the party, and he was condemned for Stalinism. He also told about possible future counter-revolution in the party. You can continue the work of Andropov and form a special economic commission of Albakian that will prepare for a foundation of economic reforms. So, Trotskyist is all about expanding the Soviet Union aggressively and you know, preventing too much economic reform. Yakovlev is a liberal and just wants to liberalize everything. Kostolapov is Stalinism. He wants to prevent reforms at all cost, but doesn't particularly care all that much about foreign policy. Reformist just wants to, you know, kind of keep relations normal with the West, but continue reforms. Or we will go the old way, conservative. Now, conservative is actually moderates, and is what I kind of want to try to do, because I don't want to piss off too many people. So yeah, conservatives of a party is growing. So this affects the council, as you can see. There's more conservatives. Right now the leaders are the moderates, which is fine. And you can support someone. It's going to support one of the factions. You can ban factions, so you can ban the Stalinists, and you can legalize certain factions according to your, you know, your standing. But yeah, we're going to end the episode right here, and the next part we're gonna take a look at some of the foreign policy decisions. Yeah, as you can see, the socialist relations are 79. So next turn we can get free trade with France, which should hopefully help our economic situation, and we're gonna set up the economy. So thank you all for joining this, and I'll see you soon.
Citizens of the Union. As the Communist Party prepares to undertake the restructuring of its leadership, the hopes and aspirations of millions of Soviet citizens rest upon this process. Recent research shows that the level of trust in the government is rising thanks to the promised reforms, and all the members of the Warsaw Pact have expressed their support and adherence to the CPSU leadership. It is clear to the working people of the world that the USSR's endeavor of socialist construction is crucial to the success of the world communist movement. However, due to the rising tensions in several global theaters, it is clear to the leadership of the Communist Party that the political process must not be allowed to interfere with our Union's efforts on the world stage. The continuing conflict in the Persian Gulf, perpetrated by the reactionary regime of Ayatollah Khomeini, continues to represent a major destabilizing factor on the southern borders of our country, while the Ministry of Foreign Affairs has reassured the government of the Democratic Republic of Afghanistan that the Soviet military mission will continue fulfilling its brotherly duties to that country. On a more sinister note, the American warmongering project, known as the Strategic Defense Initiative, is expected to be expanded due to the likely re-election of US President Ronald Reagan. Experts from the rocket forces have stated that while the project itself borders on the unfeasible, its implementation carries the danger of an escalating arms race, one that could possibly involve the final frontier of mankind, the cosmos. The Soviet Union remains committed to the development of spacefaring technology with the peaceful aims of exploration and